Welcome to What Shall We Say to These Things.
I'm TJ.
I'm MJ.
And this is a low-key ghetto Bible study.
That's what it is. Okay.
So we're getting into chapter 17, Genesis chapter 17 this week. It's a lot more mellow than what we did in chapter 16.
Yes.
So it should, not hopefully, but it more likely would be a shorter
Discussion.
Yes.
I'm a lot less volatile.
Yeah. So as usual, we invite you to pause and say a prayer, and then we'll get into it.
All right.
Yeah. So chapter 17 was a longer chapter. It was almost double the length of chapter 16.
Okay.
So we're going to be dealing in bigger chunks. So for the first part, we're looking at verses 1 to 14.
Okay.
So 13 years have passed since the events of chapter 16.
Okay.
And Abraham is now 99 years old. And we are told that God appeared to him and said, I am the Almighty God. If you walk blamelessly before me, and I will make my covenant with you, and will multiply greatly your descendants. And Abraham's response to this is to fall face down, and God continues to talk to him. He says, this is the covenant I have made with you. You will be the father of many nations. I am changing your name from Abram to Abraham, which means the father of many. I have chosen you to be the father of many. Your descendants will be fruitful, and you will have royal descendants. I will continue the covenant I have made with you, with your descendants forever. And I will be their God, as I have been your God. And the land of Canaan, where you are a stranger now, will belong to your descendants. Eventually, the whole world will belong to you, your natural and spiritual descendants, and I will always be their God. The conditions of this covenant are not just for you, but for all your descendants. As a symbol of this covenant, every male, including children, must be circumcised. Start with yourself, and that will be a visible symbol of our covenant. Every male child born among your descendants should be circumcised 8 days after birth. Every male is to be circumcised whether they are born, adopted, or bought into your family. They will all be considered your offspring. Whether your biological descendants or not, they must all be circumcised. This sign of our covenant will be in the flesh of you and your descendants as a lasting reminder. Any male who is not willing to be circumcised will be cut off from your family because he's not willing to keep the covenant with me. So, that's verses 1 to 14.
Let me just say the first thing. I am so relieved his name has finally changed, so I don't have to remember to call him Abraham.
Yeah. Outside, what I found interesting is outside of, like, we don't know how God communicates with Abraham regularly, but the two instances where we see him appearing to Abraham is for covenant.
Okay.
So it looks like God shows up and makes appearances for covenants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was curious. I'm like, is this a second covenant, or is this a reminder of the one they've done before?
I think it's a reminder of the one they did before.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was just here are the conditions, because I think at one point he says, this is the covenant I have made with you.
Ah, okay.
This is what tickled me, right? God tells Abraham, and some versions say, this was my problem, some versions say, if you continue to walk blamelessly before me. And I was like,
Continue?
Continue? Like, this is the man, right? This is the man who God has to tell this promise, like, every 2 chapters, right? Because he is a doubting Thomas. This is the man who has messed up the whole plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about continue blamelessly. I have to assume it's a translation error, because like if he says walk blamelessly, I can deal with that, because like it's like from now on, do what you're supposed to do. But that thing about that didn't sit right with my soul. No.
But I feel like that's the thing. We learning in studying Abraham's story, I've gotten to the point where I say it so fast, like, so we don't know which, if I'm saying Abraham or Abraham. The fact that God takes him into consideration where he is. And so, at this point, all his previous mistakes have been erased.
Okay.
And so, he's blameless right now. And we're not going to talk about what he's about to do in the future.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the thing. Or it's the same thing as that his faith has been credited to him as righteousness. So, like, forget what he's done and what he's capable of, but, like, he believes sometimes. And that is enough for God.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
The other thing I found interesting is that yet again we have God starting off with a repetition of the promise for many descendants. And I was like, again? But then I thought about it and I was like, maybe at this point it is necessary when there's one descendant.
And this is also not the descendant that God intended.
But we're not even like, I don't know that Abraham is like, he's not even necessarily aware of that yet. Right? So it's just you have one now, but this will not be the only one.
Okay.
I think it was at that type of
but I think that's I think what I was saying is also important, because this is 13 years after they've done the covenant, right?
Maybe possibly even more than 13, because it's 13 years since Ishmael was born.
Okay, so it's been a while since the darkness and the smoking oven, right? And since that time, he's had a descendant. And I think Abraham at that point might think that this is the fulfillment of the promise. But I think it's important that God remind him that, this is not what I had in mind, but I have not fulfilled my promise yet. Okay. Yeah. And so I think it's important that they have that conversation again.
We get that in the second part of this chapter.
But I think, like, we have him, like you were saying, God is talking about this again. But I think it's important that, after this much time, Abraham
gets a reminder.
All right. Yeah. And I also thought it was interesting that God changes his name before he fulfills the promise.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, that is cool. That is cool. Yeah.
And he also makes them do their part of the covenant before he fulfills the promise as well.
Yeah. And I also like that the promise this time, I feel like he's always been told that he's going to have many nations, but this time God specifically tells him some of these guys are going to be kings, they're going to be royalty. And I feel like that would be more exciting for Abraham.
Yeah, but I think like you mentioned the name change, I think I needed to put that into my, I don't know if I put it in my lessons, but like the name change.
Did I put really that in my lesson? I hope I did, because that was important to me. I don't think I did.
It really resonated with me, because and I guess since we've talked about it, I think now that I'm saying it, I'm like, God can say,
this is who you are.
No, not even just that. God is saying, walk blamelessly, because you're a whole new person now. Like, we're done with doubting Abraham. We're done with the mistakes Abraham made. You are now Abraham, father of many nations. You have a new name with a new meaning. I'm giving you a brand new identity. With this new identity, walk blamelessly before me.
Okay.
I like that.
Yes.
It's
That's
like,
nice.
I would like a new name too.
JT.
No, you had to put an H in there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but
Tahaj, right? Abraham. Aha.
Yeah.
Aha.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's Taj. It's Taj.
No, aha. Because Abraham. So they added a aha. Abraham. So you'd be Tahaj.
I could deal with that. Yeah. So that I think the last thing I have there I think is more.
Related to afterwards.
Yeah. I think we can discuss that in more detail afterwards.
All right.
Okay, we'll talk about it after. Okay.
Okay.
So I think do you have anything else?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I think we're moving on.
Very rather quickly, yes. Okay, so we're dealing with the last part of the chapter. We're dealing with verses 15 to 27. And then God says to Abraham, I'm also changing your wife's name as well. She's no longer Sarai, but Sarah. I will bless her, and she will give birth to a son. She will be blessed and the mother of many nations, and she will have descendants who will be kings. And Abraham bowed his face down and laughed, and said to himself, will a 100-year-old become a father again, and a 90-year-old Sarah get pregnant? Abraham then asked God, why not count Ishmael as our offspring, and bless him through the covenant? And God responded, saying, Sarah, your wife, will give birth to a son. You will call him Isaac, and I will make my covenant with him forever, and with his descendants after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you, and I will bless him, and he will have many descendants, and will make a great nation from him, and I will make a great nation from his offspring. But my covenant will be with Isaac, who Sarah will give birth to by this time next year. And after God was done speaking to Abraham, he left. And on that same day, Abraham was 99 at the time, and his son Ishmael was 13 at the time, was circumcised. And every male born into his household, or born or bought into his household, born, bought, or adopted into his household, were all circumcised, as God had told him to do.
Mm-hmm. How long was a Hebrew year, a biblical year?
I have no idea.
Because, like, I find that happened in the Shunammite woman story as well. They're like, this time next year, when they tell them that. And is it that the year was 9 months? Or
not necessarily. I think it is just that between now and next year, this time next year, you have a year to have a baby, basically.
Right. So is it that the baby is not conceived yet? Or is it that, like, our concept of 9 months was
different? I don't know. That's something we need to research.
Okay. Because it's very possible that the baby's already in Sarai's belly when he's like, you are now a father of many nations. So before,
in the case of little Isaac, you are the father.
So it's like though Abraham hasn't seen the evidence already, his meaning is already true. His new meaning, I don't know.
I love that Sarah got a new identity too. Because I think, like, we've seen her be potentially problematic. Not potentially, we've seen her be problematic. And so I think this was a fresh start for her, and I appreciate that. I feel like Homegirl needed to turn a new leaf.
Yes.
And I think, like, God was like, we wiping out your past, I need to wipe out her past too. 'Cause two of y'all were accomplices. Everybody get a fresh start. A fresh start for you, a fresh start for you, a fresh start for you.
Yeah, I was reading one of the commentaries, and they're like, one of my notes is, why does she get a name change? Because they saying that Sarah and Sarah mean the same thing. Princess. I was like, that's interesting. That she would be named Princess. Like, was she actually a princess? But why would you name your child Princess? But anyway, but I think, like you're saying, it was more symbolic than not necessarily the meaning. It was that this is the new you. This is your new reality. This is these were your names pre-covenant. These are your names post-covenant. Yeah.
You would think that by now Abraham would just trust God. You would think. Like, he tells him, your wife Sarah is going to have a child, and he's like, oh, what about the one I already have? Why can't we just use him? Like, is this one not good enough? Can he just do the job? I can't.
And it's like he's like, we old, we can't have kids. I don't remember what I was going to say. Just use what I already have.
Yeah.
What did home have?
Yeah.
Like we don't have to go through this like impossible thing that you, God, cannot possibly accomplish. We don't have to go through that. Use the what we already did, you know? Like that, like it seems so ridiculous, but I feel like we do that to God all the time. I feel like, I don't need to be transformed. Like, I don't need to have some character development before you take me to this place where I want to go. Just take me there already. Yeah, I don't need to like, there's nothing about me that needs to change. I'm good. Let's go.
Yep. But I think it's beautiful, right? Beautiful. That God makes it clear that Sarah would not have to make her family through another woman's son. He's like, no, like, she will have her own son. She will have her own flesh and blood descendants. That is my plan. That's what I'm going to make happen. I think that's nice. Because up until this point, she was expecting that,
she was going to have to basically steal Hagar's son from her. Like, Hagar didn't seem like she was willing to give him up either, from what we've been seeing. Yeah. I also like that we were saying that Isaac is not conceived yet. We're not sure. We don't know how the time thing works. But before his parents know that he exists, that he's alive, or even before he's born, he's been blessed, and he's what do you call it? From the get-go of his life, from the beginning of his life, he's already in a relationship with God, like he in a covenant, like they have an agreement before he even exists, and
that's
he,
beautiful.
Yeah, he's blessed, and his descendants are blessed just because of something that happened with his father and God, and like.
And I think sometimes we take that for granted, that a lot of times we are sometimes blessed by not necessarily covenants, but like relationships our parents build with God, and things that take place in their lives, we get the trickle down.
Yeah, I think that is the beauty of, like, and I think there's a text like that the blessing will continue for the
third and fourth
generation. Something about God's love and his mercy will extend, and it's beautiful that, like, we can benefit from the faith and the relationship that our parents and grandparents have built with God. I believe that a lot of the blessings we've received and the protection is because our grandmothers were praying for us. Like, yeah. Yeah.
And I've heard our living grandmother pray for us. Like, she just pray for everybody. Like, she just called everybody by name. So we know we covered. Yes. Yeah, we know we covered. I just want us to talk a little bit. I don't know if you were there, but I feel like you were there. A couple of years ago, there was a sermon.
Before we get there,
okay.
I was there. I remember that. But I don't know if this comes before. I think you could come after. But what I appreciate also is that God does not forget the other son.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, God doesn't say,
and I don't think it's forget. I think it's like overlook,
right?
Or put aside.
Yes, and this is important. He is important to Abraham, and I think we also forget that by just existing, Ishmael is important to God. I forget that all the time. I forget that just because these people don't have a covenant with God, or just because they don't believe what I believe, that, that Jesus died to save them, God does not just overlook them. He doesn't. He's working for their salvation just like mine. He is thinking about them and working in their lives, and blessing them and their descendants. And like, it just blows my mind that there's enough love and enough mercy to
grace.
to not just the Isaac, not just the son of promise, that he is going to bless the Ishmael as well. You know, the son that is important to Abraham, the only son Abraham knows right now, not necessarily part of God's plan, original plan, but he has a portion for him.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
That was touching to me. Yes. Now, yes, that interesting tidbit.
Okay, so like, God says, your part of the covenant and our symbol for the covenant is circumcision. And like, prior to that sermon, I had never like asked why.
Yes.
Like, why is that the part of the body that God decided you have to use as a symbol of being in agreement with me?
Why can't you pierce your ears? Or like, because I feel like ear piercings at that point in time was signal of slavery. So it'd be like, technically you saying, you think to me, you are under my rule, and not necessarily subservient, but what's the word? You obey me, and you think to me, my rule. Yeah, like pierce your ears, like that. But no.
And like there's so many other parts of the body that they could have gotten tattoos. Like, there could have been any other symbol, right? And I think I listened to the sermon and like it made so much sense and I was mind blown. But the pastor was sharing that God requested circumcision as a permanent reminder, right, to Abraham and all the other descendants that part of the body was not necessary for God to produce a child. And I think, because we see Abraham asking, how, as a 100-year-old and with my wife being 90, can we produce a child? And God is like, I want you to use this as the symbol of our agreement, of me making you the father of many nations, because I want you to remember that I do not need this to make you the father of many nations.
And what the pastor was also saying is that at that point in time, a part of something represented the whole.
Okay.
So he's like, I don't need the foreskin, but I don't need the whole thing either. Yeah. So I remember sitting there. I feel like we must have looked at each other. I don't remember if we were sitting next to each other, but like I remember feeling that aha, like oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And like, I think this is the message that Abraham needed to get his whole life. That I don't need you. Sit down. I don't need you. I don't need you. Like, I can accomplish this on my own. Yeah. And I this has no biblical grounds, but I think that Sarah was barren for this purpose as well. So this could be a miracle.
So they could not take any credit.
I don't need your uterus to be functional. I don't I don't need any part of you. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. And I feel like in teaching the Abraham's covenant, I feel like that is such a significant component. And I don't know that like we ever justice. I don't know that we ever talk about it, because it's just circumcision. It's just like this random cutting off of a piece of your body. And like I went through how many years, 23 plus 22, I don't know how long ago that was, not understanding that this was a direct message. This was supposed to be a reminder that
I think it was also even a point towards Jesus, that I don't need.
Well, yeah. didn't need Joseph at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But like, and the sermon took it deep, and I don't think that I don't think we necessarily need to go into that. But I think it was a reminder that God does not need our works to save us.
Okay.
It is by faith through grace. So I think that's where that's where the pastor tied everything together. Which was like, these are things that you hear all the time, right? But I've seen it juxtaposed with the covenant of Abraham and what God asked for as a sign of the covenant, and like realizing, like, if he can make an entire child with a 100-year-old man and a 90-year-old woman who's been barren for those 90 years, why would I doubt that he has the capacity to save me?
Yeah.
But that was just off topic.
I don't think so.
Well, not off topic. I mean, like, off story.
I agree with you. I think that is what this story is about, and I think that is why this story is so significant. And like you're saying, it points to, like, Jesus. It was not a barren woman; it was a virgin woman.
Mm-hmm.
And like, this God is capable, like, of doing these impossible things. Why not save me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is he not capable of saving me in spite of who I am and what I've done and what I will do?
And give me a whole new name.
Yeah, a whole new meaning to who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so the final point I have is something we were discussing like a few minutes ago before we started recording, and it was the fact that Abraham circumcised all the men of his household on the same day.
I was like, imagine what it was like. I was telling TJ, what was it like living in that household? Like, you don't know what is going to happen on any given day. One day y'all just pick up and y'all get go to war to save his nephew, and then the next day he comes and he gets some random day he comes and he takes a cow and the sharp object and cuts things in half, and I don't know if you get to witness that, but you must have given him the animals because from his herd, and then one day he just goes round the camp and cutting off people's foreskins, like, and like we were saying, like, God had to protect them at that point in time, because I feel like they would not been able to function for a few days if they were attacked. They wouldn't. Yeah. So I wonder what, like, if there was just this understanding that Abraham's God is going to ask him to do stuff, and we believe in Abraham's God, and so we just going to go ahead, or it was just like, Abraham has taken care of us. Oh, and then getting used to the new names. He comes back from his conversation with God and he's like, no, I am not Abraham anymore. I'm Abraham. And your mistress Sarah is not Sarah anymore. She's Sarah. Like, and just, you have to roll with it. Yeah. I wonder what that would have been like.
Something to talk about and maybe write about. Somebody would. It must have documented it. You know? Yeah, that must have been interesting. Very interesting.
Okay, lessons. I found it very difficult to find personal lessons, which I shouldn't have. Oh, no, I should have. I feel like this whole chapter was just about God, like lessons and reminders about God. I didn't know how to personalize them. My first one is related also to the time frame. Like, it's been 13 years since our last chapter, and it's just a reminder that God is not in a hurry. Like he could accomplish his purpose over a larger span of time, possibly, very likely, because his concept of time is not the same as mine. Like, he's been around for eternity, so like 13 years is like nothing to him. But I think it's not just that it's nothing to him. I think that he works at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not being in a hurry. It's not that, oh shucks, I forgot. It's a not yet. It's not the right time. This is not you not ready. The world is not ready. This is not the perfect time, the optimal time for him to accomplish his purpose. And so when he's ready and when it's right, he'll do what he has to do.
My first one about God is that even when we derail God's plans first, he has a way of setting it back on track.
That's nice. And the other one is, it reminded me of that saying we have as Christians, that God equips who he calls. And he called Abraham and Sarai. Well, we don't know. We, like you saying about the Sarai, it's only in this chapter he mentions her, but he called Abraham to be the father of many nations long ago. And he calls Sarai, this 90-year-old woman who's been barren, he calls the barren woman the mother of many nations as well. And so, like, it's his job to make that possible. It's not ours. And I think that links to the whole God will call us by the name that we haven't earned yet. Because like, he sees it, it's there, it's in our future, and for him we are already
and like that's like Gideon, oh thou man of valor.
Right. Yes. And my final one about God is that he cares about our concerns, and I'm thinking as the sense of Ishmael. That, you know, he's not, like you're saying, he's not going to overlook him, because at the end of the day, Abraham is concerned about him and his future. He wants him to be blessed as well, and so God will take care of our, that sounds so strange, take care of our Ishmaels, because like, well, a lot of the time we refer to the Ishmael as our going astray, or as our going our own way, but I feel like it's not like that in this sense that, you know, Ishmael didn't ask to be born, and it's not fair that he be punished because of his parent. We're talking about Abraham.
You said that, and I'm looking at one of the ones I had, and I was like, I should have written this differently. Cause I had, God will find ways to salvage and save our mess ups, and like you're saying, Ishmael was not. It was a mess up on Abraham's part, but that does not make Ishmael a mess up.
Okay.
But I think when there are mess ups. When we mess up, the consequences or the outcome is not necessarily a mess up.
Right? Okay.
But I think even in those situations, God has a way of salvaging and saving everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And I think my last point about God is that he's patient with us. Because like we've seen Father Abraham like question God on everything, and then God is like, no, Abraham, this is my promise to you, and he's like, okay, God, I believe, and then God is like I think it's what, chapter 15, he tells him, I'll make you the father of many nations, and he's like, what? And God like, I'll make you the father of many nations. He's like, okay, I believe. And then God is like, I'll give you this land. He's like, what? And then we get to 16, and he's like, God, he's like, and Sarah is like, I'm not having children. Go have children with somebody else. And he's like, okay. And then God tells him, Sarah is gonna get pregnant. And he's like, what? And God is like, how? He's like, God, how are you gonna do that? Why not just use Ishmael? And it's like, God is like, Sarah is going to get pregnant. That is who will be your heir. And he's like, okay. Like, this man is just like, he gives me hope for myself. Like, there's abundant hope for myself.
Yes, definitely.
I thought I had other points for my personal lessons, but I only have one. And I think this has been my running theme in relation to Abraham. I can trust God to continue His work and His will for my life, even when I have messed up.
That's nice. I feel like mine are. No, I don't have the messed up part, but I have the. This is going off of what Abraham didn't do, but the fact that I can be patient. I can be patient and trust God. Wait on Him. His promise is going to be fulfilled at the right time. So I just need to sit down and wait. But the other one is kind of the opposite. God asks them to do something. So it's not the sitting down and waiting, it's the working. But what I want to remind myself of is that my obeying God, my doing what He's asked me to do, is an exhibition of my faith in Him. And it's not like He does not need it to accomplish His purpose, and He's going to do that on His own. Yes, my human efforts are about my faith and not about Him accomplishing His purpose.
I just realized I forgot one of my my God points.
What was it?
God is always clear about the conditions of His agreements. That has been chapter 17. I think it went longer than I anticipated.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd make it that long.
But it's been an interesting discussion.
Yes, it has. I have not read ahead, so I don't know what we in for chapter 18. So that will be a nice little surprise. We can't tell you what it will be like. If I'm going to be judging Sarah again, we don't know. All right. So this has been What Shall We Say to These Things?
I'm TJ.
And I'm MJ.
And until next time,
we're out.